What's going on, guys? Aarava here, and welcome back to the Pitlane podcast, episode number 52 today, to review the Azerbaijan Grand Prix at Baku, and what a race that was. You join with the usual host, myself, but today we have two guests with us, Ryan and Justin, both Callum and Tom, both at work, but welcome, guys. Good to have you on board, and what a race you guys have decided to join us with, because what was that race?
Scenes,
Yeah.
just absolute scenes. I mean, and polar opposite from last year. I mean, last year was just a complete snooze fest, and this year it completely turned around.
I'm going to put my hands up, completely guilty of just, saying the track needs to liquidate and everything like that pre-Grand Prix, because, it needed to after that first race we had last year, but this race, literally polar opposite.
Yeah, I have to agree as well. I mean, I put a tweet out this morning with Alonso deck chair moment, thinking it's going to be boring and I'm just going to be sleeping for it. So I retracted that. And
absolutely insane. Thank you to all the F1 drivers for basically forgetting how to drive for half the Grand Prix. That's what did it. It wasn't a racetrack out there today. It was a bumper car track. It was mind-boggling. If you don't know the results yet, we'll talk you through it right now, and then we'll try. I'm going to say try and remember what happened in this race. We will forget things. There's just far too much to remember in this podcast. But Daniel Ricciardo wins Azerbaijan Grand Prix from Valtteri Bottas in second place. Lance Stroll gets an insane podium for himself in third place. Was second for quite a bit at the end of the Grand Prix. Vettel and Hamilton, controversy for them, fourth and fifth. Esteban Ocon sixth place. Magnussen seventh. Sainz in eighth. Alonso gets the first points from McLaren in ninth place. And Verline gets another point for Sauber in 10th place. That's the top 10. And then just a whole lot of chaos behind them as well. But should we start with the start then? So the very start, I guess, kind of the main talking point was Valtteri Bottas and Kimi's contact through turn 2. Bottas kind of launched off the curb into Kimi. That sent him down a lap down out of the Grand Prix. So that's pretty crazy to think he's got back to second place after being a lap down. But a pretty hectic start, and I guess that was a sign of things to come.
Yeah. Initially seeing the start, of course, you would think, two can't tango through that corner. But obviously, you clip the curb. In there, obviously, Raikkonen was a bit peed off. Of course, from team radio, of course. So,
as per usual,
ruined his race. But I've got to give Bottas credit from, as you said, was that a lap down comes through to get second place. As we'd mentioned before we went on air, for me he was the driver of the day on that particular race. So he did well, and I don't know if you saw as well, but we'll go into it later about Hamilton's team radio about Bottas. So.
Right at the end.
We'll leave that later.
It's just such a blur the first 21 laps, because it was lap 21, wasn't it? That we got eventually, what was it? 2 full safety car periods. I think it was 3 by the end of it with the red flag technically. And so that was only the first 21 laps. We hadn't even got to halfway, and we'd seen that much action. We'd already seen that controversy that Vettel. I guess we'll just go straight into it, because we've already mentioned it already. Obviously, that little bit of heated moment between Sebastian and Hamilton. Hamilton seemingly braking a little bit or just not accelerating through the final. Well, I can't remember what corner it is, but basically the little kink at the end of the kind of triple left-hander. Vettel smashes into him, breaks off pretty much most of his cascades on the front wing, and then what it looks like, it's a little bit weird and unclear to see on the onboards, because unfortunately Vettel has that stupid kind of sideways onboard camera, but it looked like then Vettel just kind of accelerates past side by side with Hamilton, then kind of starts upping his arms, and then kind of turns into Hamilton, makes contact with his right front tyre. So that was a very contentious moment in the race. Eventually ends up Vettel getting a 10-second stop-go penalty. Hamilton has to pit anyway because his headrest came loose. So Hamilton didn't actually get a penalty for any of that. His headrest came loose, which is the funniest reason ever to have to come in, unfortunately for him. But what do you guys make of that? I know it's going to be... There's no winning this argument, because whatever happens, the comment's going to go to absolute tear either side. I'll let you guys in the comments below. Let us know what you think, and you guys can fight amongst yourself. Obviously, I have no bias in it. I don't care for either drivers. I don't support either of them. So It was just kind of crazy just to have the popcorn out, eating it while that happens. So I don't know if you guys have any kind of strong opinions.
I definitely think Hamilton was a little bit aggressive on the brakes, but I also think Vettel's contact, where he hit him from the side, was accidental. I think that was a result of him throwing his hands up in the air which maybe, in hindsight wasn't the best choice. But yeah, I don't think Vettel intentionally turned in, because you could see him lift his hands up in the air and then the contact is made. So I don't think it was intentional. I think, I don't know. It's a tough one. 10 seconds isn't that big of a deal. It's not massive. It's not like he's getting a grid penalty for the next race or anything like that.
Well, we'll see. Yeah, we'll see if there's any investigations afterwards.
I think he should have just complained to the stewards instead. And that's the problem, is a lot, drivers often try to take matters into their own hands, and it never works out well when they do that.
Yeah, maybe not, but it's great for us if they do take into their own hands on track.
True story.
Yeah, instead of just Vettel on the radio, just screaming about it. Yeah, I mean, it was, it's a bit of a weird situation. It's a bit silly from both ends, I feel. But obviously, let us know what you think. I think the less said from us about it, the better, I think, because as I said, there's no winning that argument. But Ryan, do you have anything to say about it?
Well, I don't know to start where, from my opinion on this. In my initial thoughts, seeing it, I thought Hamilton was deliberately outbraking at first, deliberately doing it. Brake checking is a word to describe it. But obviously, when he was on board with the telemetry, when you have seen the input, I've retracted that a bit. I just think Vettel just got caught napping, really. Didn't really on there, and then I don't know what he was doing there. Obviously, I do agree with Justin with his hands in the air and the wheel just on its own, just hit the side of him. I think the penalty he got, I think he should have got more, personally. But
it's an odd one, because it's almost like you almost want to say he should have got more because Hamilton had to come in anyway. It's kind of like, relative to Hamilton, he should have been punished far more in that race. But it was unfortunate Hamilton, a completely separate incident, had to come in for the pit stop because of that stupid, the foam padding basically coming loose at very high speeds.
So unfortunate.
For Mercedes to do that, the best team on the grid, and they can't even have a good car that can hold a head thingy. It
would have been because of the red flag, surely, because they all get out the car. So it would have been whilst getting back in the car, someone didn't strap it down properly or something.
Whoever's got that job is gonna get a heckling from Toto Wolff.
You, mate, you just lost us a Grand Prix win here, basically.
You're now the janitor.
You're sacked
Congrats.
off your pot. Go back to the kitchen
when you lose a Grand Prix because of a headrest coming loose.
Yeah.
So I guess it's just such a blur, the first 15. I'm going to be completely honest. It's hard
like
to
two
remember.
races.
It's hard to remember exactly what happened those first 15 laps.
It's right for you. I like to bring in Max Verstappen, of course, retiring.
Of course, yeah, that was a big moment early on.
Heartbreaking.
Unfortunate,
Red Bull
really
fan.
unfortunate.
Twice
in a row now. That's going to be, well, for him, he's going to be furious. Obviously, Red Bull can be happy at the end of the day with Ricciardo winning, but yeah, that's going to be anger for Verstappen. Twice in a row now, the engine's given way, and this time Verstappen seemed even more kind of just heartbroken than he did at Canada, because you could kind of tell it in his voice, it's gone again, no.
Well, someone tweeted a GIF of it was Ron Wagner. He tweeted it to X Matty G, and I retweeted it during the race. And it was that thing from Red Bull when they were advertising the RB13 at the beginning of the year, and it would say unlucky for some. Yeah, it said unlucky for some, but then the would go away, so it would say lucky for some. And that's literally exactly what happened today. The RB13 was extremely lucky for Ricciardo and extremely unlucky for Verstappen.
It's like the whole Vettel Weber again, if you remember.
Yeah, just poor luck from the same car, unfortunately.
It's just going to be interesting to see what Verstappen does here, with that mindset in his head. Maybe he wants to leave, maybe. I know he's tightly down to a contract for another couple of years, because Christian Horner mentioned it regarding Alonso maybe leaving McLaren. Red Bull was mentioned, and Christian Horner was like, nah. These two are staying, they're on a contract, for a couple of years. So maybe Verstappen may want to come out of that contract, and maybe if Raikkonen retires, maybe go to Ferrari. But
God!
I think if he continues, if his car,
if he gets bad luck,
he may want to leave. So
I mean, a bad car like that, a bad luck like that could kind of force the issue there.
But I mean, the Red Bull isn't that bad. We know because it's down to the
engine.
Well,
it was the fastest car in practice.
It was
surprisingly.
It was quickest in the speed traps as well, apparently today.
They took a lot of wing off. It was like an Indy car.
They did bring Renault brought an upgrade, not like an actual proper one. It was like a little minor one with gear ratios or something like that, and little minor ones again, about a tenth or so a lap. So
Right.
I mean, I know it's nothing big, but
Well, it was enough for Ricciardo to make a triple overtake into turn 1, which was like
intense.
Yes, he got a lot of luck, but that move put him in that position to then get the lead, which was bravo. Like, that was such a great overtake. I mean, it was not only that, it was like 4 wide at one point momentarily as Hulkenberg went on the very right and Ricciardo was on the very left, and then to dive down the inside of that, not really knowing how many cars are there on your right-hand side, they're going to try and pinch you into the apex, was insane. Insane move.
I will say, I think a little bit of poo came out of me for that moment. Like, I was literally expecting like a crash with it 4 wide.
Yeah,
like, I was thinking carnage ensuing right now.
Yeah, for a few split seconds, it literally looked like you're going down like a motorway, like just 4 wide, different lanes.
Yep.
Ricciardo, I guess for Americans, overtaking on the left lane there down the inside.
But I've got to say, at turn 1 as well, it's very tight on exit as well because it gets narrower.
It closes
I've got to
up.
give him props for that. It's probably, in my opinion, one of the best overtakes I've seen for the difficulty of that corner, getting that tight.
Large brake zone, such high speed,
High speed, like what? I don't know what, like 220, 225, and braking heavily into that corner.
And I mean,
pulled it off.
Yeah, that coupled with Ricciardo was way down the order anyway because he had to pit earlier because he had something in his radiator duct, I think it was. So, yeah, I mean, obviously I think we said this just before we started recording, but I think pretty much half the drivers, if not more, are going to be saying what if in that entire, like, after that, looking back at the race, because so many of them were in such bad positions. Then you've got Ricciardo and Bottas, who was way down the order, who've come back to get the 1 and 2 in the race. Just crazy. I think the best way to maybe continue like looking through this race, maybe just go driver by driver, try and dissect it that way. So we've done Ricciardo kind of very, very bad luck early on.
I've got one thing to say about Ricciardo. Fair play to him, of course. I like him as a driver. He's one of my favourite drivers, and I think it's fitting that obviously Ricciardo winning. That I think being a Ricciardo fan, I do a shoey. So.
Is this happening?
It is happening. Is
this happening?
Being a Ricciardo fan, I've got to do it. So,
please do.
Oh my
gosh! Oh my gosh! We're watching this live. Oh my gosh! Wow.
Well,
wow.
That's a first for the Pitlane podcast. That's a first.
Yeah, I mean,
bravo.
I'm a fan. So
well done, sir.
I mean,
well done.
Okay.
Got excited. So
that was interesting.
I'll go ahead and ruin something for you guys as well. If Sergio got a podium, I was going to take a picture of myself in this extremely pink t-shirt. which has ponies
My
on
Little
it.
Pony on it.
And belongs to my girlfriend. But yeah, if he got the podium today, I was going to wear that. So yeah, fair play for doing the shoey, man.
Right, so that was Daniel Ricciardo's race. So absolutely amazing for him to win then, for his season then. Bottas, well, we mentioned, lap down, came through almost like a nearly, if he had caught Ricciardo, it would have been like a JB Canada 2011 style race, coming back through the field, getting the safety car luck kind of in terms of unlapping himself and then getting through to second. But Bottas, crazy. I guess this would maybe be a good point to mention that point you brought up, Ryan, about Hamilton at the end asking Bottas to maybe slow down and back Vettel into him. Obviously, Mercedes said no, because Bottas could have got second, and he did get second in the end. But what do we make of that? Was that maybe, I don't know, I want to say, was it a little bit of arrogance maybe for Hamilton to just expect Bottas to maybe do that and be a complete team player for him?
Well, he's the contender against Vettel at the moment, I understand that. But at the same time, Mercedes are thinking, well, we can get you 2 more points, or we can get Bottas 3 more points.
Yeah,
and Mercedes, I'm sure, would prefer the 3 over the 2.
Like, one thing as well to bring alongside this with his radio about his constant. I may get some heat for this, but from Hamilton fans, but. His constant whining during the safety car about saying, "Oh, it's too slow. What we should have the VSC."
What are we supposed to do, Lewis?
I mean, he seemed to be commentating his own race quite a bit there in that Grand Prix.
I like him because obviously he's British and he's a world champion, of course, and that's good for us. But
he's a living legend.
Yeah, but I just don't like his constant whining on team radio.
Same.
It just gets a bit annoying, and then obviously this week he's come out saying about retirement and all that at the end of the season as well. So
yeah, I agree, and it's not just him. He's not the only driver guilty of complaining. A lot of drivers do the complaining. The problem is that some of them do it a lot more than others. And people definitely start to notice when you're complaining a lot. And it starts to grate on people. The other thing is, Formula One doesn't have to share all of his complaints live on TV.
Yeah, they choose that in the world.
Exactly. Like they're specifically saying, like, oh yeah, let's make Lewis look like a crybaby. So that's also kind of frustrating as well. So it's I half blame Lewis and I half blame whoever is choosing to broadcast those messages. But yeah, the constant moaning from any driver, not just from Lewis, is definitely frustrating.
Yeah, I mean, also on the safety car, it's tricky because, like, as you said, like, what are you meant to do? Like, they can't really do too much. Like, I know he was trying
rockets to it.
Yeah, I know he's trying to direct the messages to Charlie, but it's not like they're going to go, right, yeah, speed the safety car up to full race speed. It's like, it's just unfortunate that the cars now, especially at this track now with the tyre, just needed way more heat up. But unfortunately, the safety car speed's the safety car speed. So yeah, I mean, I also do get Lewis's point a little bit. Maybe like at a certain point, if the tyres are too cold, it does get a little bit dangerous on the other end of the spectrum. But
sure.
It's always been that case with the safety car. There's always been that, especially more maybe in the V6 era, I guess. It's kind of worked up a bit more because of the tyres we've had in recent years. That the tyre heat-up issue is a lot more now. But, yeah, so that was a little bit odd. Anyway, now let's finally get to the man of the hour, Lance Stroll. Third place.
My driver of the day.
Yes.
Driver of the day for me.
Second place for quite a while. Really unfortunate to get pipped on the line, which in itself is mad that happened in an F1 race, to get pipped on the line. But still, I think, Justin, you were saying that. I think that's what you were saying right before we started recording. Like, the reason why you put him driver today, because where he's come from, especially, Canada gets the first points, and I think I said this to someone in private that I was hoping Lance takes that good result he got in Canada and just get some momentum from that, because as much as it's funny to kind of bag on him of what he's done previously, it's it'll be good to see him take that momentum, kind of show people wrong, and to get third place now. Absolutely just insane. I mean, I think it was Rob Smedley saying, he's absolutely outdrove his age, which is 18, to get third place in what would have been a race where it's very easy to lose concentration, easy to lose it into a wall, as we
Hulkenberg?
said. Yeah, many what ifs, and he's come through and held his own.
Yeah, Nico is an extremely experienced driver at this point. He's been around for years and years, and very well respected among fans, the paddock, etc. And he had that tiny little mistake, and boom, that was it. His race was over, and Stroll didn't. And when Stroll first came in to F1, there were a lot of people that were kind of naysayers, and I was not one of them, because he had the results in the previous categories that he had raced in. Sure, he's got a rich dad, but I mean, that's not his fault. I mean, he can't do anything about the fact that his dad is rich, and maybe he would have gotten that seat without the results that he was getting in the lower categories. But I always kind of had faith until about like China, Bahrain area. Like, he hadn't even finished a race, and I was like, oh man, now he's making me look like an idiot, and all the naysayers are looking like the smart ones and stuff. And I always kind of had faith in Lance, despite the fact that I'd never actually watched him race. I just knew the results that he had gotten. And I was really hopeful, and it's really good to see him finally come good, because that is going to silence a lot of the naysayers and the people that think he's only there because of the money. And he had luck today, but you need luck as a driver. Ricciardo had luck, Bottas had luck, and people aren't going to slight them. They're not going to say, oh, Ricciardo only won because of luck. Like, no, it's a combination, and that's the way it is in F1. You have to have a little bit of luck and the skill as well to back it up. You got to be there when the luck finally does come your way.
Right time.
Exactly. And for Stroll, that was today, but it was well deserved. I don't think he got it purely because of luck. So that's why he was my driver of the day. Because I mean, he's been struggling for so much, and now he finally comes good. Even if he had gotten 4th or 5th today, I still think I would have put him driver of the day.
Yeah, still would have been solid, but to get that actual mark on the podium, I mean, you could see him on the actual podium there. It meant quite a lot to him.
That's going to go on his wiki page, man.
Yeah, a lot. It meant a lot to him, a lot to his dad, and clearly a big moment for him. And also Canada as a whole, for any Canadian fans watching F1.
Yeah.
Now to have a Canadian podium guy, obviously the first points he scored was the first time since Villeneuve. So now to have the podium the next race, it's a huge positive, and I think at least Canadian fans will have a kind of sigh of relief now that their one driver is not such a kind of laughing stock anymore. I guess he's got that big result for him.
I mean, also as well, he's the youngest podium sitter as well now on the grid.
Yeah.
And also he's been. I don't know if you guys know this, but he's been quicker than Massa throughout the whole weekend as well. In practice. So
he did like a weird private testing, didn't he, at Austin, apparently?
Yeah.
And like they finally kind of worked out he was going wrong on setup the entire time, perhaps. And so they kind of helped that, and that helped him a lot during practice, being a little bit more comfortable out there. So, yeah, very interesting stuff.
I think from Canada, I think it gave him a massive confidence boost to take away from that race and go, right, got points, great start, just go from that.
Let's do more.
And look what's happened.
This is the start of his new career.
He's been
reset button.
A reset.
Exactly.
Lance Stroll version 2.0.
Yeah.
On there. So
absolutely. For sure. Yeah. So great stuff for him. So after the podium, we already went through a little bit of Vettel, Hamilton. I mean, specifics about their race. Well, Hamilton looked pretty damn comfortable actually out there at the very start of the race, especially after Bottas obviously went down the order with Kimi. Kept it clean into turn one and just generally was looking fine. Then obviously everything kind of came crashing down when eventually all the red flag the safety car controversy. Then obviously the armrest, and then from then on, basically it was a case of him and Vettel slicing through the pack. A bit of jokes coming out that he was complaining about blue flags. He was like, "Why aren't the blue flags coming out?" And then some people making jokes about Vettel saying on the radio, like, "Now you know how it feels with the blue flags, Hamilton.
The problem
now
is
you can feel my pain."
The problem is with the blue flags, of course, is the fact that Baku is that narrow, like in the first sector and the middle sector. How are they going to let them through? So that's a problem. The only place you can realistically overtake someone, like to lap them, is that very, very long straight in the last sector. So, I mean, I don't understand why they would complain about that. So,
yeah, I mean, eventually they made their way through from what was down in just outside the top 10, I think it was, wasn't it, to fourth and fifth. So sliced their way through quite well. At one point, Kevin Magnussen was actually in third place. That could have been an altogether different podium for Haas. Unfortunately, he then swiftly dropped down from third to seventh quite rapidly, basically after Vettel and Hamilton closed up. Even Ocon was there in the podium position at one point, chasing after he had a very we'll get to him, but a very messy Grand Prix as well for him. But he was there. So we had so many different podium potential people, and at one point the top, I think 7 wasn't it, or top 8 were all different
top
teams.
8. Yep.
Top 8,
It was crazy. That's something you don't usually see in F1. Like, there's gonna be people that maybe watch this race and maybe it's their the first few Grand Prix they've watched. They're gonna be like, "Oh, is it always like this?" But this is
this normal?
Very, very, very extraordinary race, and I think everyone needs to kind of soak this in and appreciate it, because these races don't come too often. It was crazy. So yeah, Vettel, Hamilton slicing their way through eventually. Let's get to Ocon then, 6th place. Messy Grand Prix. Eventually, his teammate Perez did retire. Eventually, I can't remember what was the exact issue with Perez. I think something went wrong on his car, didn't it?
I don't know.
I think there was a radio message between me and his engineer, and his engineer kind of they both confirmed that it was unsafe for him to continue on. So I think it may have been.
Originally, I think it was
braking,
suspension.
maybe?
I thought
Suspension, maybe?
on the front
Maybe?
right.
Yeah,
front
so
right.
unsafe,
Rods,
obviously,
someone
to
the
be out
rod
there.
on the suspension.
That would make
Right.
sense.
Yeah, so it was a messy one for them because especially the big moment was obviously Ocon went down the inside of Perez. It was very much sort of like Bottas and Kimi, but a little bit less. Ocon didn't exactly get vaulted as much as Bottas cleanly up in the air. But I think to the point where Ocon naturally just wasn't unable to give Perez much room. If you look at the onboard shots, basically, when the moment where Perez loses his front wing, there's basically not enough room for his car to be there. So very, very unfortunate there. And I mean, I don't think you can say much apart from a racing incident. I don't think it was Ocon's fault necessarily.
I mean, if you watch Ocon's point of view as well, I don't know if you saw the onboard from his perspective. As you said, it was exactly the same as the Bottas-Raikkonen incident, but a little bit less. But it's just unfortunate, really.
Yeah, I think that's...
I believe they could have easily got one of them on the podium, personally.
Mm-hmm. Potentially, yeah.
And they
Agreed.
had a great chance, and because of that little moment there, it all happened. But
well, yeah, again, what if? I think a lot of it is just what
what
if
if.
already in this race. Also, I forgot about this, actually. The man who spun in turn 1 also got up into P8 eventually. Carlos Sainz. Obviously, came off track, came back surprised Sainz so much that he just lost the back end. Like, just forgot momentarily there's no traction control.
Just think what would happen if they actually did collide.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Pile up, legit pile up, like we saw in F2. But earlier on.
Literally, the man who was backwards after turn 1, dead last, came through to 8th place as well. So, this race had everything. Magnussen also, as we mentioned, up in the podiums for quite a bit of the time, and his engineer saying he's doing a brilliant job. Unfortunate, just eventually, as soon as the penny dropped for him, I think the performance of that Haas car kind of just came through. His teammate Grosjean had brake issues the entire Grand Prix.
Yeah.
At one
just
point,
like normal.
Yeah, just like normal. I mean, I think that's a dynamic duo for them this season. Grosjean and brake issues. I'll wait for you to give me a better duo, really. And then at one point, Grosjean was even like to his engineer, tell me if it's too unsafe. Just tell me that, because I don't want to be going out here. Eventually, he did actually finish the race, a lap down in 13th place, but still, good stuff for Haas. Eventually, still to get 7th. Obviously, what could have been once again, but eventually, obviously, the faster cars came through. Vettel, Hamilton, Ocon. I mean, it would have been very, very tough for him to defend from that. And then Fernando Alonso, let's get to him. 9th place then. Well, he had a bit of an interesting moment where he was ahead of Vettel and Hamilton.
Yes,
so,
that was amazing.
Get the cameras ready. Get the cameras out.
For a brief, glorious moment, we had 3 world champions on track actually fighting, and one of them was damn Alonso for once.
Oh, no.
Yeah, that was incredible.
Yeah, I think a lot of McLaren fans would have been very excited, especially, obviously, Alonso was in the points, of course. He was like high as 6th, wasn't he? 6th or 5th place?
Yeah,
I think 5th at one point. 5th at one point, yeah.
And Van Dorn was in the points in 10th place as well. Just the scenes of people, McLaren fans going, a double points finish. Oh my God.
By the time Ricciardo retired as well, it was like the case of the Honda engine right now is more reliable than the Renault in both cars, the Renault car for Jolyon Palmer and Verstappen's car. And the fact they've come through to finish that, like all the races, Baku, long straight, compared to other races like Monaco, this is the one where they get points. Quite funny. It just shows the craziness of this race.
Interesting stat as well, McLaren, their engine was 18 miles an hour slower than the rest of the pack. As well.
That's painful. That's painful.
One thing I will say as well, which has come up now, Ted Kravitz spoke to Eric Boulier. Obviously, you think, oh, McLaren, great, you got points, well done. How do you feel? And be excited. But he's come out saying, very blunt, if I'm honest with you. Go, Ted goes, first points of the year then. Eric Boulier just goes one word, yeah. Great.
Yeah, well, yeah,
it keeps going.
It's still not amazing. Like, really, it's actually disaster that it's taken them this long to get the first points. And,
with that speed deficit, imagine where they would be without it.
Well, yeah, exactly.
Or where Alonso would be. We'll get to Van Dorn a little bit later. But, imagine where Alonso would be if he was even 10 miles an hour faster on the straights.
And more in there, he goes, he could have been more positions. Boulier goes, yes. And then he goes in saying that Alonso had low battery failure with the ERS.
Yeah, right at the end. Yeah, he was
right at the end. And it's just frustrating, really, for McLaren.
Well, Alonso
really
came out on the radio, as he always usually does, at the very end, like, we could have won this race. You never know, Just that's if they had the battery and the engine power,
where would they be?
Yeah, you just don't know, because with the chassis is not too bad. Obviously, I don't think it's as good as they say it is, but it's not. I think it's good enough where they could have been where Ocon was eventually, like fighting for the top podiums.
I mean, they must have the second or third best chassis if Alonso's getting, ninth in Baku. It's got to be up there.
There's a statistic, I think it was from the Spanish Grand Prix. I can't remember who it was who posted it. I think it was Ted Kravitz or something. There.
Obviously, getting to Q3 there.
Yeah, like their car was like the second or third quickest, like in the corners,
in Sector 3.
in the corner speeds and all that.
Yeah,
and in the last sector, like. The engine is the problem. Like, I think their chassis is brilliant. Like, for where they are in Monaco, they go into Q3 with 2 cars.
I also got to think aerodynamically, just being 18 kilometers an hour slow, that does change how the air kind of moves around. So you just that chassis is good at working with the conditions it's in. So they're having to kind of do maybe a little bit of different work, because obviously the entire time they also need to cut drag the entire time they make this car. So yeah, it's just frustrating for him. But yeah, at least they get points finally there for Alonso. And yeah, I think it was just great. That brief moment where in that one shot, I think it was right at the end of the second straight after turn 2, where Alonso was ahead of Vettel and Hamilton momentarily before he eventually gets overtaken. Yeah, just brilliant stuff to see that in the Grand Prix.
Yeah, I still didn't put his mindset in right though.
No, obviously not. No.
There's been massive rumours going around with him leaving.
A lot of stuff.
For some of his interviews he's done with Sky, is indicating in my mind he's going to leave McLaren. even if they bring a Mercedes engine.
But we saw Briatore talking to some Renault guys and some Mercedes guys this weekend.
Yep, I saw that picture.
Quite publicly.
Yep.
And usually in the past, when Briatore, sets his eyes on something to make it happen, it happens. So we'll see.
Or he could just be trolling us.
Well, yeah,
so,
all that.
Right, it could be like a power play. You never know with him.
Yeah, I think he's a character to do that. So, yeah, we'll see. So the final top 10 man, Pascal Wehrlein, does get another point for Sauber, so decent. Obviously,
and with his teammate right behind, too, which is nice. So, one more retirement in the top 10, that could have been double points for Sauber.
The thing is, though, they nearly took each other out. I don't know if you saw it, but
there was that one replay shot
Turn 3, I think it was.
The tyres were touching the rear and the front tyre.
Oh, scary moment.
So close to ruining both their races.
It's good for them, considering the week they've had with with
Manisha Kaltenborn leaving the team.
Yeah, resigning, which I thought was a bit weird, but it came out of the blue. But
yeah. I mean, there's some.
I'm a fan of Monisha. I am
like
actually.
it.
I like seeing women in F1, and particularly women in F1 who have been successful.
Who are actually doing stuff. There's not like
exactly.
She wasn't there as a token piece.
No. Yeah, she had incredible success in 2012. I mean, so she knows what she's doing. Maybe she didn't have the budget to continue that success, but it's a loss for the team, no doubt.
It's a loss as well for the women in motorsport. She was a massive iconic figure, team principal of a team.
Team principal. That's
now
the biggest position.
She's gone.
There.
It's a shame, really. It's
we still got Claire at least.
At least we've got Claire Williams, but it's just it's like one massive icon for the girls in motorsport, and she goes. It's just wrong. I think it's personally wrong, in my opinion, that she's gone.
Yeah, well, it was a bit of a weird there was just no real reason, wasn't it? Just
I think it's got to do something to do with the owners, personally. I feel
Well, she's a lawyer by trade, as far as I know.
I think so.
I mean, she could go off and do pretty much anything else she wants. So she's probably not too bothered about it. But I definitely think it's unfortunate.
Yeah. So outside the top 10, obviously we talked about Ericsson there in 11th place. Stoffel Van Dorn 12th. Unfortunate again. Just
he's not performing.
Alonso really is showing him up at the moment.
Yes,
I think that's pretty much the only thing to say really about Van Dorn. Grosjean, brake issues the entire race. We mentioned that. Raikkonen, we mentioned a little bit with Bottas. After that, it was quite a tough race for him. Obviously, at one point we thought he was out of the Grand Prix. Then they kind of brought him back in the red flag, which kind of gave him a brief bit of maybe. But then he ended up 5 laps down. So
I will say props to Ferrari to get that car back on track. To be fair,
sort of workable, to at least trundle around.
It wasn't
and of course India for trying.
Yeah, 80%. It was proper good, but there's the little bits of niggles. But fair play to them to get him out there, and then obviously they got penalties, of course, for not being in the fast lane in the pit lane when the red flag came out. But
what a dumb penalty!
It is. It's legit a stupid penalty.
It's just like when someone's already down, dying. He's already dead enough.
He's
Stop
2
hitting
laps
him.
down.
Yeah,
just chill. Take a chill pill.
Yeah,
Stewards.
2 laps down, 3 won't. It's no difference. Yeah, and then the similar story for Massa. I mean, running so well there with Lance really, and then just slowly trundled down, then retired eventually. Shame for him. Could have been. I don't know. Well, we don't know how.
Could have been a win.
I think a podium personally. It was heartbreaking to see him struggling with this. I think again, with I think Perez, it was suspension on the front. It just felt really bad. So I was so gutted for him. Comes back after no race retirement, and then comes in and just shows him he still has the pace, being this old. It's good. It's a good story, I think, for Massa. I think he's done all right this season, but I think that's his best chance of a podium gone, personally, this year.
Maybe. Yeah. I mean, Austria. Williams used to be
high speed.
Austria was obviously a very, very good one for them. 2014. It will be. It remains to be seen if it will be the same case this year. Obviously, last year and the last 2 years really they haven't performed as well as that 2014 year, but. We'll see. But I do tend to agree with you there that probably that was the best chance for him for the podium. Past Massa, obviously we mentioned Hulkenberg, who was running pretty damn well. Obviously, he was in that fight with Ricciardo for that four wide overtake. And then just, as we mentioned, Baku, this entire Grand Prix, I think a lot of people are now quickly saying that, oh, what a great Grand Prix, what a great racetrack. I still don't think it's a great racetrack. Honestly, I just think that the fact that the entire half of the grid was just making so many mistakes, like you saw with Hulkenberg, as Justin said, veteran in F1 at this point, very highly respected. Very easy to make a mistake around that circuit, it seems. We saw the drivers the entire race weekend through practice making loads of mistakes as the track actually went away from them from FP1 to FP2. And then, Hulkenberg just had to kind of park up. I think it was on the escape road by the castle, wasn't it? So he kind of just went, I'll just go on. Unfortunately, with the wheel kind of damage there. There's no need to be harsh on Hulkenberg. A lot of drivers made so many mistakes out there.
Everyone makes one mistake, don't they?
I was so surprised. There was genuinely, it was like, are these F1 drivers? Like there's so many mistakes. It's actually kind of crazy.
It was a weird one actually. To be fair, from Hulkenberg, like I don't know if he just took too much curb, like he turned in too early and just on there because it was a bit of a weird line, personally for me. I think.
And then after them, it was Verstappen, Kvyat, Palmer, all with just car issues that retired.
Where do I start with Jody and Palmer then, guys? It's just not his weekend at all, but. This time around, it wasn't his fault. It was down to the engine on the Renault side of things that destroyed his whole weekend.
It's just unfortunate that the memes don't care about that. The memes
like,
are all on.
Like one of them, he actually put a tweet, I think it was him or Renault, put a tweet like going, you have to be alert on a street circuit.
Yep. That's the big famous one. The big famous one. Yeah. It's the one where I did the four-parter kind of photo tweet where it's like, oh, maybe there'll be some intelligent life here on Earth. And then just it's like, no, we'll continue looking.
But I mean, for Jodian, I think he's a broken man. Like, before the Grand Prix even started, like on Thursday or something with media, he was talking to Jenny Gow from the BBC F1 side of things for 5 Live, and his responses were just so blunt. And there was like after a question like Jenny was mentioning, there was just like an awkward silence for about maybe a couple of seconds, and then he just comes in with a response. And I think he's getting a bit,
peeved off,
and that doesn't help.
It doesn't help him, his mindset.
No.
Like, he's got his... I think, personally, he's going to get his seat gone, like, mid-season now.
Yeah,
I think he's holding that seat for someone. I don't know who it's going to be, but I think he's going to get dropped mid-season. That's my opinion.
I mean, it's certainly likely. Like you said, he seems defeated, and it's unfortunate. It really is, because I don't think he's the worst driver that F1 has ever seen.
No.
I don't think he is completely void of talent. I don't think he's a talentless driver. But I do think that maybe that negativity has gotten to him.
Sure.
And I feel bad for the guy. I mean, I make jokes, everybody makes jokes, we all make jokes, but I think the people making jokes at the same time are still hopeful that he can turn it around. When we make jokes about Jolyon doing poorly, I think the majority of people in the back of their mind are saying, "Gosh, I hope I don't have to make these jokes anymore soon."
Yeah, I think it's just at some point it's just like, okay, just either sort it out or just leave, please. Either way, it's like, oh, you're staying too long in the sport, basically, at that point. So yeah, I guess that's kind of, we've gone through pretty much the entire group. Obviously, we would have forgotten something at this point. I'm just seeing I'm also seeing that Crofty's revealed now on Sky Sports that Vettel's had 3 penalty points added to his super license.
No, not enough.
So that means if he gets any sort of penalty at Austria, he will get a 1 race ban because of the natural point system now in F1 with the penalty points. So he's going to be on tiptoes basically at Austria not to get anything.
Ferrari's going to fight that. I guarantee you they're going to fight
potentially,
that.
Potentially. But yeah, so that's the kind of aftermath on it. Obviously, I think, for obvious reasons, us three, we haven't gone into it too deep as maybe some of you guys may want us to in the comments, but that's just because, as you could probably imagine, it's going to be a very hostile argument, and really, obviously, three of us here don't support any of these drivers, like, as a main driver. I've liked to see Vettel do well in the past. I've also admired how fast Hamilton is in the past as well, but absolutely. I don't really have any biased opinion, really, at this point, as I said on Twitter. I think all three of us, we're kind of just enjoying the fact there was some drama in the race.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, I think the less said from us, the better. But obviously, let us know what you thought in the comments below. But that has been what has been such a sensational race. I think absolutely crazy. Baku, if you can produce that sort of race every year,
please
come back every year. I don't mind.
2018, please.
But
Please.
there wasn't a lot of racing going out there. It was a lot of bumper cars. I will say that. I think the racetrack itself is still a little bit debatable, but for sure, to make drivers force them into mistakes, that was a great Grand Prix and track that did it this year. So awesome
they'll be
stuff.
finding carbon fiber for the next 12 months.
Oh
I
yeah,
think.
for sure. You like some poor bloke just popping off to the shops down the main high street, just gonna be like, oh, there's a bit of carbon fiber hit my car. But yeah, well done, Baku. Well done. If you did enjoy the podcast, guys, then hit that like button. If you're new around here, then do get subscribed to this channel for the podcast. And yeah, as Ryan's indicating, if you have enjoyed Ryan and Justin being on the podcast, then do give them a follow. Their Twitter handles will be above their heads on the video, and also links in the description. That's been the Pitlane Podcast, episode number 52, guys, for the Baku Grand Prix. Let us know what you thought in the comments below. If you're new around here, do get subscribed. Hope you guys enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll see you guys next time.